to order the regularly scheduled meeting of City of Elmhurst Zoning and Planning Commission. Before we take the roll, I just want to advise, first of all, that we are on an online format again, similar to what we were at our last meeting. And before we start, we have new guidelines from the State Attorney General's Office on the Open Meetings Act. So I'm going to ask each one of you if you can hear me. And when I ask that question, will you unmute and acknowledge that you can hear me? Okay.
I'm having a hard time hearing.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear.
So I have to put this. Okay, fine. I'll just do it. Can everyone else hear me? Can you hear me now?
Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Carol Snyder, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you,
Yes,
will you please, you'll have to speak louder yourself.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Commissioner Dave Garland, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Excellent. Commissioner Jordan Uditsky, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Excellent. Commissioner Kevin Burns, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Commissioner Lisa Calloway, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Commissioner Mark Hoffman, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Commissioner Susan McCoy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Commissioner Melissa Pittman, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I would ask you to speak louder as well.
Okay.
I'm going to ask Emily Egan, who is in the room where the applicants will be speaking. Emily, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So the applicants can hear me. Let me ask Mike Kopp, who is in the room where the public is, to make comment. Can you hear me in that room?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I think everyone is then accounted for. Eileen, city planner, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. I will now ask the city planner, Eileen, to please call the roll to establish a quorum.
Thank you. And as I get started on that, I just want to remind everyone, when you are not speaking, to please make sure that you are muted. And Chair Rose, if you could mute right now also, because I think we're getting some feedback. Okay, I'm going to start the roll now. Commissioner Burns?
Here.
Commissioner Calloway?
Here.
Commissioner Garland?
Here.
Commissioner Hoffman?
Here.
Commissioner McCoy?
Here.
Commissioner Pittman?
Here.
Commissioner Snyder?
Here.
Commissioner Uditsky?
Here.
And Chair Rose?
Here. All right. We have a quorum. I'm going to speak again into this. That's the best way, apparently. I want to make sure everyone understands with this online meeting. We have all the commissioners present, but I want to describe again how the public is going to be able to participate and how this will go. The applicant is in a room on the first floor of City Hall. Eileen, you're going to have to mute your microphone, please. Thank you. Okay. The applicant is in a room on the first floor of City Hall and will be presenting their testimony in that manner. We have court reporter is online and has established that she can hear us. The public is in a conference room on the second floor. They have established that they can hear and they'll be able to participate in that way. The other ways that the public will be able to participate is through written testimony, which they need to provide by 5 p.m. on the day of the meeting. If they wish to cross-examine any one of the applicants, they need to contact staff, Eileen France, by phone to advise her that they wish to cross-examine, or any member of the public can phone in. We have one other difference from our previous meetings is that this is being recorded, will be on YouTube, and it will not be removed. So this meeting, the public can access this at any time. So you're all aware of that. Okay. I want to again emphasize, and I'm saying this for myself, that when you are not speaking, to please mute your microphone. There is a chat function on this, and if your microphone is on, what I'll do, I'll just go into the chat function and ask you to mute your microphone. So take notice of that chat function. That's the only thing I will use the chat function for this evening. So, all right, a lot of preliminaries. We are ready to begin. So, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of our meeting from May 19th, a motion and a second to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Commissioner Udisky moves, a second.
Second.
Commissioner Callaway seconds. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections that anyone wants to? Seeing none, we will be taking a roll call vote. Again, this is another guideline that's been established by the Attorney General for the Open Meetings Act. There will be no voice votes, but they will all be by roll call. So I'm going to ask Eileen Franz to call the roll to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Commissioner Uditsky,
Yes.
Commissioner Callaway,
Yes.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Commissioner Garland,
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman,
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy,
Yes.
Commissioner Pittman,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Chair Rose.
Not so quick with the finger. Yes. Thank you. Our next item of business is general public comment. This is a time when anyone can make a comment. They have 3 minutes to make a comment on any issue of zoning that they wish to comment on. I want to advise any member of the public, if they wish to make a public comment on a case that we are hearing tonight, I would encourage you to wait until that case is being presented. If you speak now about a case that is before us, your comments will not be on the public record, so we really will not have an opportunity to weigh your comments when we are deliberating. I don't say that to quash your desire to speak, just so you know you can speak right now on any comment, and you can speak again when the case comes on. So you'll have 3 minutes at this point to speak on any issue that is of interest to you. I would ask you to, Assistant City Manager Mike Kopp will advise you on how to do it technologically. So is there anyone who wishes to make any general public comment? Mike, let me ask you, is there anyone in that room who's indicated that they want to make a general comment under the public comment section?
No, they do not. They will wait for their case.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. So we will now move to the business in front of the commission. The first item of business is case 20 ZBA01, the judge parking variation. And Emily, is that you or is that Eileen?
That is Eileen,
Oh,
City Planner Franz, that has that case.
okay,
And I can dial in the applicant now.
okay, please do so. Let me ask Eileen, will you introduce the case to us while Emily is dialing up the applicant?
Yes, I can do that while she's getting him on the line. This is case 20 ZBA01. The application was filed February 20th, 2020. It's a request for a variation from parking requirements for a physical therapy office. The applicant is Jim Judge. He's a tenant at the property. The legal notice was published May 14th, 2020. The sign was posted May 15th, 2020, and the mailing was done May 15th, 2020. This case was originally scheduled for June 2nd, 2020, but since our meeting was canceled, it was continued to this evening, June 16th, 2020.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let me ask, is the applicant on the phone and available to begin their presentation?
They are, Jim. Go ahead.
Yes, James Judge.
Okay.
Were you able to hear?
I was able to hear clearly.
Okay, Mr. Judge, let me ask you we have the supporting material that you've submitted. All of us have read that. Our general procedure is that we ask people on the commission if they're not familiar with that area. They go up and take a look at it. But you are requesting a variation, so I'm going to ask you to please, if you'd like to make any comments on any of the written material that you've provided, or give us a little fuller look of that. And if you have, I don't know, Emily, if the applicant do they have a PowerPoint or any visuals they want us to look at?
Yes.
I just, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Judge. Go ahead.
I provided an outline for this discussion today, so I think that's all I need.
Chair Rose, would
Before
like-
you do that, I would like to ask the applicant and anyone in the public comment room who wishes to comment in any case, you might as well stand up right now and be sworn in. So that we are taking sworn testimony. So I'm going to ask you if you wish to make a comment, it doesn't have to be on this case, but on any case right now. You'll just stand up and be sworn in, and the city clerk will, not the city clerk, our court reporter will swear them in. So if you're going to speak, please be sworn in. I'm going to ask, there's one more person in the public comment area. If you wish to speak at some point, could you be sworn in as well? Mike?
Yes, she is going to, Billy, she needs to sit down.
She will raise her hand. Okay, she'll raise her hand and be sworn in. Okay, thank you. Let me ask the court reporter to please swear in anyone who wishes to make comments.
Can you hear me? Would you all raise your right hand for me, please? Do solemnly swear or affirm that whatever testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay.
Mike, can you confirm that all persons there are 4 persons I see in that public comment room, that they all were sworn in?
Yes, they were.
Okay, thank you.
This time.
Right. I'm going to now ask the applicant, who's also been sworn in, to please comment on the 3. You can present your case as well. I would encourage you to also comment on the 3 standards for granting a variation.
Okay, so I wasn't able to hear that last piece, but I'm looking at the actual application, or the variation application. My name is Jim Judge. I'm the owner of Relief Physical Therapy. I've owned an office, a familiar office in Elmhurst prior to this, but I've been an owner and operator as multiple businesses in this field for the last 25 years. And in fact, I had an office in between 2009 and 2011 on York Street, just less than a mile towards downtown, where I had a practice there as well, and then moved back to Bensenville shortly thereafter. So our business is one-on-one care of physical therapy, 1-hour treatment protocols. Our staffing is no more than 100 patients that would come through the visit for an entire 7-day period. We've never done that higher than in this system for the last 4 years. And it's very evident based on the not just short-term, but long-term effects of COVID. We are not going to be seeing many Medicare patients whatsoever because of the comorbidities and issues that they may have. So that's probably a business we will not have. We'll be doing that what they call telemetrically, which means we'll be doing that basically over the phone with the physicians, referrals, etc. So our business will be primarily to commercial insurance folks that come in that have maybe a post-operative shoulder injury or even just a muscle strain or more vehicle accidents. Our models have been one-on-one care since we've had our inception. Our website clearly states that, and I've had this business for, like I said, over 25 years. And so, as from a standpoint of car usage, our utilization of a maximum would be 7 needs for 7 to 8 tops. Our needs would be, as far as our vehicles would be concerned, because of our one-on-one care. Patients are only there for no more than an hour, mostly between 45 minutes and an hour. Patients have to fill out their applications for any of their paperwork are done online. So they come there strictly for physical therapy and they leave the building. We have over 26 parking lot available spots there. And the owner is our landlord. Of the building is our landlord. And they have a business that is a dry cleaning business and also a tuxedo business, which they do on Sundays, which we're not open, and Saturdays, which we would be only by appointment to 12. And the dry cleaning business is only through a driving business. It's no more than 3 minutes of time during and out of there. So we have the entire parking lot to our space to ourselves, but we don't need more than 7 or 8, maybe 7 tops. We would have it yet at our full capacity. We have 1 therapist and 1 technician. That's our model. It doesn't change. We have other offices that are within 10 or 15 miles away. That's the same model we use at those locations. So we will never be any more than that. So the variation application is requested because it's not something within our business. In fact, if I did do the calculations, right, we'd have to see 170 patients a day to fulfill that requirement, which is virtually impossible. Nobody would be able to do that. I think we fall far below the threshold of the needs of what the requirement would be for the village. It was not required in 2009. It was busier in period. And so patients had fun when they found it. But so this is new to us and our other villages. I did an analysis of the surrounding communities as well as in my communities that I'm located in, just a few. And the most we had was 8. Much lower than that. So certainly 12 to 13 parking spaces less in the communities that we don't use that many. But again, the business is one-on-one care. A portion of our business is now being voided because of COVID, which will be on here for a long time. And the Medicare patients are probably not going to be part of the business model. So we certainly will never fall anywhere close to the threshold needs that you have. There are some variations that were given in the village. In fact, Olympia Chiropractic Village at 535 York Street. I personally went through there on 5:30 and saw that they had very little parking. And they have lots of volume. The chiropractic business is much different than physical therapy, but they have a heavy level business that comes through their visits and volume. I had called and it was a waiting list when I called. So I know there's a lot of people that are going through there, but they're shorter time, but there's many more people going through there. And then, of course, DuPage Medical Center, which, typical wait time for physicians are significant time, allows 10 minutes in a waiting room and over 20 minutes waiting. So they have a lot more wait. Physical therapy is within 3 to 5 minutes, patients are seen by our visits. So the time we revolve, the patients are in the room and out of that room within 1 hour always. We don't have any need. We don't do any other specialty care, no wound care, just outpatient physical therapy. So that's the core of our business. And I think Eileen France did a spot review there on May 29th and spoke to the landlord, and the landlord did concur that there's very little business on their side where there's a lot of traffic for their side or parking, and that when the parking was virtually empty when they come over there. So we feel that we would be a great tenant to the community. I've had the opportunity to work in Elmhurst before, and we think we're value to the community. And we certainly feel that we don't have any issues with the parking whatsoever.
Thank you. Can you address yourself to the three standards that the city of Elmhurst has established that you need?
It's a little soft talking, so I'm having a little bit hard.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'll have to do it again. Can you please address yourself to the three standards that the city of Elmhurst has established for the granting of a variance? They're in your application. Would you like to just highlight any piece of any of those?
And Chair Rose and Mr. Judge, sorry to interrupt, but I do have an application PowerPoint or presentation that is on board docs that I could pull up if both of you would like during this discussion.
Okay.
It's on board docs. It's the applicant submittal for public hearing. I just don't have the permission settings. At the moment, I believe I would have to get that from Mike Sensen or.
I think that's up to the applicant. If the applicant would like to show the PowerPoint, I show that the YouTube channel is the one that has the
Correct.
permission. Okay,
So
all
I
right.
believe
So that's up to the applicant if they would like. I understand it's on
Oh.
board docs, but if you'd like to show it right now, we'll try to do that.
Well, I was caught unexpectedly. I was expected to be there today, but they asked me to do it on the phone, so I can only read what I have here, and I did have this presented quite a long time ago with the application, so I can just read through it. That's okay with everybody.
If you would prefer, we're happy to get that up on the screen share.
I don't think it's going to be
Okay,
necessary.
it is accessible, so feel free to continue. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just reading through the property information and how big the property value is, or how large it is. There's obviously significant parking in the back, more than 24 spaces. I was requesting for a variation based on our needs of our space, and much of our needs are more has changed obviously even since we came here, but it's still outpatient physical therapy. We are averaging. And we average between 24 to 40 patients per week, 1 hour care. So we certainly fall well below the threshold. And that's actually, they're asking for that statement, D number 2. The 20 spaces that are required by the code would be unnecessary and possibly accommodate existing parking because we don't really have that need at all with our patients. Okay? The variation standards, I'm reading through here, that they show unique circumstances of the physical therapies rather than our patients. One-on-one time has a lot to do with this. So having 22 parking spaces is not necessary. And I've also evaluated under 3B, has looked at multiple offices in the village, and some of them are not even under these same guidelines. I know the downtown area does no variance or no parking for this type of requirement. They have the parking in the city, I believe. This is essential characters of the neighborhood. I understand. Let's read through something. The other parts of that was that it wouldn't be a necessary step for us for this type of spaces. I mean, it's just want to clear a number C, I believe. I mean, it wouldn't be financially feasible for us to stay in business if we had to maintain that. We would lose our business, but we don't have the need for those many spaces. So that's the main reason why we're requesting for that.
Okay.
The survey was provided throughout the as well as the $500 variance application, and also the responses, the standard responses have been applied for this particular case.
Okay. Anything else you want to add, or is that it's fine?
I think it's pretty. I mean, the strength here is that obviously this is not our first business. I've had this business for many years. I've never had an application that need for this many spaces, and it's clearly our model. And the model for the future will be well below your threshold request. And so we're asking for a variance based on the need to help our community. And again, the landlord's business, that's their building, will be there forever. They have a very small amount of people that come in and out of there. And the business is basically in and out 3 to 5 minutes. And I've driven past there many times, taken many pictures, and some of your folks, including Eileen, have been over there when there wasn't one of us. So I think we hopefully will fall within the board's request to continue business here.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me ask now if anyone on the commission has any questions for Mr. Judge. Commissioner Burns.
Yes. Mr. Judge, one question I have is with respect to the parking area, and this might be more in the landlord's hands, but perhaps you've spoken with the landlord about this. And namely, are there going to be any further improvements to the parking area in terms of screening or landscaping or anything other than just using the parking lot the way it is now?
Well, they just redid their asphalt. I know it's like within a month ago, so they've already upgraded the pavement and relined it. So it's actually very smooth. And my patients that have any instability in their legs or lower extremities, it's a very smooth surface, and the entrance to our area is very
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Garland.
Mr. Judge, how did the other tenants feel about this variation application?
Well, they were, first of all, they're relying on me being there, right? Because they're a small mom and pop business, have been there for over 25 years, and they were actually going to. They were originally going to go the first one or two times to come and support. In fact, Eileen had stopped by, Ms. Francis stopped by and talked to her and they said if you wanted us to be there, we would be here. And then since this was going to be a phone call, they elected not to, because they felt that this was a pretty straightaway conversation. But they're very happy with our services to be there, and not only just to support their business, but hopefully some of our clients that come there would notice that there's a dry cleaner there that they can drop their things off there for convenience. Whether in therapy, things of that nature. So we actually are very accommodating to them, and we fit very well in their structure.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? I have one. I actually have a couple, which is, I may have misheard you. I thought you said in the beginning that there were 100 patients in 1 week, and I think later you said it was 20 to 24. Could you just clarify that for me?
Sure. I said my threshold would be up to 100 patients. I apologize. We generally run, looking at my model, was up to 45 patients normally, because it's one-on-one care. So our threshold would be no more than 100 patients in an entire week. That's 5.5 days. That's not per day. It's the entire week. So
That's the entire week. So if you're saying 100 patients, that's the maximum in 1 week. That's like 20 patients a day. Is that what you're saying?
Well, we're there on Saturdays for half a day as well. So it'd be like up to 15 patients, usually probably 15 or 17 patients, probably in a day would be the most.
Okay. One other question. You also said that there would be one therapist and one technician. They would be there all the time, correct?
That's the only requirement, is having 2 employees, correct?
Okay. And then one last question. I actually have been to a lot of physical therapy for various reasons, and so I understand it. But are there ever times where there are 2 people at one time? You might be working actively with one while the other one is doing something that does not require a technician oversight. So are there ever times where there might be 2 people at one time with a technician and a therapist?
Our model, we don't do that in our model. However, there are sometimes places somebody was running 10 minutes late and they just got there late for some reason. We're not going to tell them not to come. So there could be a small threshold of time where there's 10 minutes over, but that's human nature, but otherwise our model is not to double book it that you're asking us for, and that we usually see one-on-one time, but it could be in circumstances such as that where somebody came a little bit late, but otherwise it's usually their patients are usually leaving and the other one comes in afterwards. And we really have to do this now. Let's think about this now is because of we have to clean clean all of our systems effectively so the patients can see that we're very cleanly. We're making sure that we're protective of them and wear masks and all those things. So the patients are generally leaving. And once they leave, we do a quick cleanup of the area to make sure they know that we're looking out for their safety.
Got it. Okay. Any other questions from commissioners? Commissioner Garland. Commissioner Garland.
Mr. Judge, you mentioned that you have 2 employees. Where do the employees for your business and for that matter, the other businesses park?
My employees would park there. They're not there now because we're not really open that much, but yeah, they would park there.
Okay.
They got next door. That's 610 offices. There's 6 parking spots next door, but one of our employees currently actually lives in the neighborhood and actually her husband drops her off. So it's really just 1 car currently, but just there would be no more than 2 cars. That'd be it.
So what you're saying is that at the most, there would be 1 technician. I mean, people come and go, their jobs come and go, but 1 technician, 1 therapist, 1 patient, and the only time there might be a second patient would be somebody was early, late, but especially during a time when we're all very conscious about public health, you would not necessarily, I don't know, would you ask a person to wait in their car or whatever, but at the most, there would be 4 cars for your business. That would be the max at any one time. Is that correct?
I would say between 4 and 5. I would say that would be correct. So we're definitely that's all we need.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else, any other commissioner have a question? Commissioner McCoy and then Commissioner Hoffman.
I guess my question is, how many employees of the other businesses that are in that same building, how many employees will be using spaces there in that same parking lot?
They have the owner who's there 24/7. She does all phases of the business, including the tuxedo spot, and also runs the the dry clean business. There's also usually a young lady or somebody up front that helps her, and then she has 1 other employee that's there that does some of their on the phone business, which is I believe is a book travel, I believe. So it'd be no more than 3.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Thanks. Just a quick question. You'd mentioned you had a previous relationship working in Elmhurst under Flexion Rehab. Just a question regarding whether or not it was the same business model, and if that was the case, did you require a parking variation at that time?
We did not require it because I believe downtown does not have the same. I know there's these different zones here from this is going back 2009, so please, my memory may not be there, but I did not have any variation for my parking that was I had at that time.
Okay. Any other questions from commissioners? Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to ask if there are any questions or anyone in the public comment room who would like to make a public comment around this particular case.
There's no one in the public comment room for this case.
Okay. Thanks very much. It has been, Mr. Judge, it has been our practice that unless one of the commissioners believes we need to wait, that we would try to deliberate this evening. I think we feel even more concerned about that, knowing that we have had to reduce the number of meetings we've had. So we're really trying to be a little user-friendly here. So I'm going to ask commissioners if there's any objection to deliberating on this case this evening. Please let me know right now.
I think, Susan, the only
Sure, Cal.
issue is time constraints, depending upon, how long everything else takes tonight.
Yep. Just so everyone knows, if you, the question is whether, if we can't get through all of our business tonight, we will be having another meeting next Tuesday. So, and I think everyone is aware of that. So, I would prefer to deliberate this one tonight, but if, I would make sure, Commissioner Callaway, if you think that, for whatever reason, time, you want more information, whatever, you would prefer not to, then we will not deliberate tonight. So I just want to make sure everyone is aware of that. Commissioner Burns.
Yeah, given that we have the McMaster car UD discussion, if we're going to deliberate it, I would suggest.
Could you speak up a little, please?
Sure. Since we have the McMaster car PUD coming up tonight, if we're going to deliberate this case, I would suggest we do it now.
That's what I would think, so. And just so you know, we may or may not deliberate McMaster car tonight. We'll see how it goes. I mean, that's a larger case that has a little more moving parts than this one, but I'm going to then make the judgment call that we will deliberate this one this evening, and we'll move into City Planner Friends.
Just one quick comment. We have the situation where this is on YouTube Live. I haven't received any emails of anyone who wanted to speak during this, but there is a 2-minute delay. So I do think before the public hearing is officially closed, we do need to wait 2 minutes to make sure we don't hear from anyone.
Okay, we will set a timer and wait exactly 2 minutes. And then I'll entertain a motion to approve. We'll move into deliberation and we'll entertain a motion to approve. So.
City Planner Friends, I did check both of the voicemails, but I did not check the planning info email. If you're able to do that, or if you'd like me to go do that really quickly, I can do that.
So I am able to pull up the planning info email. We haven't received anything. I didn't catch what you said though. Did you go look at my voicemail?
Yes, no voicemail.
Not blinking. Okay. So we are almost 26 seconds left.
Commissioner McCoy moves. Is there a second? Commissioner Garland seconds. Commissioner McCoy, let me ask you to lead the discussion then.
I believe the petitioner has met all the qualifications for the request. And so I would propose that we go ahead and grant this variance.
Thank you. Commissioner Garland, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
Yes, I would first off concur with Commissioner McCoy. I think there's a couple things just as it relates to the variations themselves. The plight of the owner, just as it relates to the parking, it seems that the parking needs are won't be stressed. And that there's a significant need for a need for less parking that would otherwise be required and supported as we look at some of the surrounding area requirements for similar type businesses that would be more in line with what the applicant is asking for in this request. It certainly will not alter the essential character of the area or the neighborhood, and I think that as it relates to the reasonable return question, I think managing the space down to get it to meet the parking requirements makes it cost prohibitive, and I think the model just doesn't work. And so, I think based on all of those, that the applicant meets all the requirements for the variation standards, and I would support approving it.
Thank you. I also look myself, I think that there is a unique circumstance. While the applicant put this under can't yield a reasonable return, this business in particular does require a significant amount of equipment to actually do. So that in and of itself constrains the number of people who could ever participate in this type of activity. You just, there's a certain amount of equipment. You just can't have that many. So I think that makes some sense to me too. So is there any other commissioner? Commissioner Burns.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. One thing I would add is that the main kind of conflict here, or the unique circumstance, is that the intensity of parking that the zoning ordinance requires or would require is very much contrary to the scope of operations that the applicant has outlined. And in looking at the parking class, this is a question for Eileen. This is class 11 parking. And there is no physical therapy named as one of the uses. Instead, there's G and H. G is physical culture and health services. H is physical fitness facilities and health clubs. And it seems to me that those are types of uses where you would get a greater mass of people simultaneously in a space. And I would add that some of the other class 11 uses are things like dance halls, convention halls, taverns, restaurants, skating rinks. And not to add your planning burden for the staff, but maybe this might be another opportunity for a text amendment.
Thank you. Just to comment on that, it's my understanding that this was a text amendment maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and it was lumped in with physical fitness facilities. And it was written more for like an Athletico or one of those facilities that does have multiple therapists and multiple people who come through. So we have seen this come up already with DuPage Medical Group. So it is, to your point, it is something we kind of have noted as maybe needing another look.
Thank you. Yeah. Commissioner Uditsky.
Yeah, so just to be clear, if we grant this variance and, for example, say they're bought out by an Athletico or something, does the variance carry over, or would they have to come back in and reapply?
Eileen?
So typically a variance does run with the land. If someone came in who had a very similar business model, I would say we would say that the variance ran with it and they would be allowed. But if it was somebody who was more intense and the business was, more intense than what Mr. Judge is proposing, we probably would not. We would talk to the city attorney, and my guess is we would not allow it if the business model was different.
Commissioner Garland, did you have another question or? No, I just see your hand raised. Commissioner Burns?
Yeah, just one follow-up to what Eileen noted is that the variation in this case seems to hinge on the use, the business operation, whereas other types of variations hinge on the configuration of the real estate. I'm thinking of setbacks and things like that. And the variations that are affected by the use of the real estate seems to make sense they would run with the land. But if it's the business operation, of course, that changes as the different space users come and go. So I don't know if the city attorney has something to say about that, but I just thought I'd add that.
So one thing just to kind of add to it, we can't add conditions to a variation, but in the report, the commission's report, it can be made clear that this is based on the business model that Mr. Judge is proposing as opposed to something more intense. And I think that might be a safeguard to put in place for preventing a more intense physical therapy business to operate.
I think that makes sense. Commissioner Uditsky?
Yeah, I don't recall. It was kind of hard to hear the applicant several times, but did he indicate at all? I know he talked about how many employees they would have at their facility, but do we have any estimate or guesstimate of how many employees at the other businesses? I mean, when you look at that parking area, if he has 3 or 4 people and the travel agency has 1 or 2 and the dry cleaner has, 1 or 2 or the tuxedo shop or, I mean, it seems, and if you look at the parking, it's sort of front and back of that parking lot. My fear is that, just with the employees, that it's going to take up the entire, say, backside of the parking, which leaves you really only half as much, perhaps, for clients and customers. Do we have any idea, or did he indicate at all, if anyone could hear him, as to what the number of, not just for his business, but the employees for all the businesses?
Well, I can clarify that. Are you able to hear me now, sir? Can you hear me now? No?
Commissioner Uditsky and Chair Rose, would you like the applicant to clarify?
Yes, I'm going to ask the applicant to clarify that at this point.
Okay, the applicant is ready to speak. Go ahead, Mr. Judge, yes.
I like to speak about, obviously I'm just going into this business with no intention to some business, number one. And number two, the businesses in our business in physical therapy has changed. So the Athleticos of the world will not choose that space, number one. But also they've changed their model as well. And you are forced to do one-on-one care based on what's going on in the world concepts with the virus and everything else. So we fit really well. That model next door is, I'm still buffering at least 5 to 6 parking spaces needs that are easily available, probably 8 to 9 easily are going to be available at all times, in addition to my need. But this is a family business run by a sister and, the owner of the business, her sister, and one lady. So it's no more than 4 people will be in that building at all times. We have 7 parking spots that could potentially be used. And then you also have the addition of the remaining 19 spaces, which is what just are not going to happen in our business model. Combined business model, it would never happen. So that's just not something that would never happen.
Thank you. Commissioner Uditsky.
Yeah, last question for staff. Is there parking permitted on Fullerton there?
I believe there may be parking permitted on Fullerton. I don't know if Mike Kopp can confirm that if he's.
parking on.
I'm not sure if there is or not, honestly.
Yeah, I'm not sure that there
If
is.
there isn't, because that liquor store is right across the street there, so my doubt we allow parking on Fullerton.
The applicant had a comment to that. Would you like to hear from the applicant on that or no?
Yes, if the applicant
Okay.
has knowledge of that.
Go
I
ahead,
think
Mr.
it's on the south. I'm sorry. I said I think on the south side. I looked on the north side of the street. There was no parking, but the person next door to us has like 10 parking spots, and they only have one person over there too. So that they said whatever. I mean, it's not going to happen, but you have to look for the worst case scenario that there are plenty of parking overflow right there as well.
Thank
So-
you.
Okay, the other thing I would note is that when we look at the comprehensive plan about parking, and again, this is the North York corridor that I thought the staff report was really good and said lots should not contain parking spaces in excess of likely patronage levels. And I think that that's an important thing to consider with this, and that parking. There's another point that when possible and appropriate, shared parking agreements allowing cross-access easement, curb cut should be encouraged between neighboring property owners. And I think that makes some sense here. So any other comments from commissioners, questions, that stuff anyone wants to make? Okay. In the public comment room, I don't know if anyone wants to make a comment. And the applicant.
I believe it's
Okay.
deliberation, correct?
What did you say, Mike?
Your deliberation, correct?
Yes. So we don't really want to, we can't take any public comment. Not that we don't want it, we cannot take it. So, okay. Just want to make sure everyone is heard. And if there is no other comment from commissioners, I'm going to ask City Planner Eileen France to call the roll in relation to, we have some stuff. Kevin Burns, can you please mute? Susan McCoy, can you mute for us? Thank you so much. Okay, can you please call the roll?
Yes, thank you. Commissioner McCoy,
Yes.
Commissioner Garland,
Yes.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Commissioner Callaway,
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman,
Yes.
Commissioner Pittman,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Uditsky,
No.
Chair Rose.
Yes. So this vote passes, the variation passes at this point. This will go to DPZ.
Yes, it should go to DPZ Monday, and I will contact Mr. Judge tomorrow about the next steps in the process.
Okay. Mr. Judge, this is just the beginning of a three-stage process. So this will move on to the Development, Planning and Zoning Committee of City Council, and Eileen Franz will let you know when that will occur and what your next steps are. So good luck to you.
I really appreciate your time, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
The next item of business is a public hearing on Elmhurst Seventh-day Adventist conditional use permit and variations. And Emily, are you going to introduce this to us?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Chair Rose. I am here with the applicant and three team members. I will first introduce the case, and then I will hand it off for their team to dive in a little bit deeper into any details that they wish to elaborate on. This is case 20P02, and it was filed on January 9th, 2020. The date of the legal notice of the public hearing was May 28th, 2020. The date of the posting of the sign was June 1st, 2020. The first class mailing of notice was June 1st, 2020. The public hearing is tonight, June 16th, 2020. The applicant is Stanley Levinsky from Elmhurst Seventh-day Adventist. And the request tonight is a conditional use permit for an institutional message board sign, electronic. And then 4 variations, a variation for the maximum size of a ground sign from 50 square feet to 66 square feet, a variation from the maximum height from 5 feet to 7.5 feet, variation from the setback from 6 feet to 2 feet, and a variation from the maximum size of the electronic portion from 50 feet to, or 50% rather, to 71%. And I will allow Mr. Lubinsky to speak on behalf of this case now.
Excuse me, I'm going to just jump in here really quickly. Emily, were they sworn in?
Thank you, Eileen. No, not yet. I appreciate that reminder. Thank you. If you don't,
The court reporter, is she here? Yes. Can you ask them to, let me ask the, whoever is there, the applicants, to please raise your right hand and the court reporter will swear you in at this point.
Would you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that any testimony you give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
We do.
I do.
thank you for the
Emily,
reminder.
can you affirm for us that the applicants raised their hands and were sworn in?
I can confirm all 4 of them did so.
Thank you. I would now ask the applicant to, again, please come and present your case and, let us know, we've looked at the stuff. Most of us have been down there and been familiar with it. So please present your case.
Well, thank you. I'll move over here in front of the computer.
That would be great.
Thank you very much. Yep. Hi. We have,
Hello.
hi,
You are Mr. Lubinsky.
I am, yes. I'm
Great.
on the Board of Elders at the Elmhurst Seventh-day Adventist Church. We have with us our first elder, Doug Hamill is here. Our pastor, John Porowski, is here. And our head deacon that manages a lot of different things around the church, but the maintenance of the property, and that's Kurt Zimmerman. So it's the 4 of us that are here today. And we should be able to answer any of the questions that come up. We started looking at this project, maybe about a year ago, when we noticed that the current sign has been in place for, the date on the sign is 96, so pretty close to 24 years, is deteriorating considerably. And so we started to look at our options as to what we were going to do to replace the sign. And we looked at these electronic message boards as a great way for us to be able to communicate to the community and to our members, but what the programs that we have, community-based programs that are undertaken at the church. And so we started to look into what it would take, and we understand that we have to come here for some variances because the sign, to make it work and work well because of our position there on Butterfield Road, there's some variances that we want to talk about here this afternoon also. And I've asked our pastor to come in and kind of just give you a brief discussion about an overview of some of the outreach programs that, if you'd be able to hear. Yeah.
Can you please introduce his name for the court reporter and have him get close to the.
Okay, he's coming over here. This is Pastor John Porowski.
Yeah.
And he'll talk a little bit about the outreach into the community and some of the programs.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. My name is John Porowski and I'm pastor of the Elmhurst Seventh-day Adventist Church. I do speak with accent, but I hope that all of you can understand me. That accent is coming from Croatia, beautiful country in Europe. And what we are doing here in Elmhurst, Seventh-day Adventist Church is well known for their health initiative. Even not close to, not far away from us, there is LaGrange Amit Health, which is owned by the Seventh-day Adventists, Hinsdale Hospital, Bolingbrook Hospital. There are several hospitals. So what we are trying to do is to, health is the greatest treasure. It is the richest possession that human can possess. So that's what we are trying to do to bring to the community. And we started with the healthy cooking classes. And we usually have about 40, 50, 60 people from the community coming. Lately, we are having much, much more than that. So we also thought in existing sign, we will put the advertisement, and every time that we are holding this, somebody will come from the community. So we thought also, but it is not really, people cannot see well. When they pass by, they cannot, it is hard to change also those letters and everything else. So we are also bringing a lots of people who are in health, medical doctors, well-known through United States, who are giving health lectures, which are well attended. We have also some celebrity chefs. When celebrity chef Mark Anthony was with us, we have about 150 people in attendance from the community. So this is the reason that we want to bring some changes in the community. Not just with that, we are also offering Financial Peace University, helping people with finances, with marriage and all other things, all other practical things from the community. So that's all, just in a nutshell.
In a nutshell, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on your team you want to speak or no?
They're here if there's questions that come up, if they can answer the questions. So again, when we looked at this, the message sign and the position of our sign and the changing nature of the neighborhood, in addition to the conditional use of adding the electronic message board, the size consideration in the location of the sign is based on the size of our lot and the fact that the sign has got a very short sight line. When you're approaching the sign with the shrubs on the east and the new development on the west, it's difficult. The current sign is almost impossible to read and be able to see any notice that's on the sign. And what we want to be able to do is be able to put whatever that message is on one, illuminated once. So a driver coming by would be able to catch that sign, read what has this, what the program is, and if they're interested, they know that it's there as they pass by. That we don't have to put multiple screenshots up with multiple text. It's all in one text. You can see it one time when you drive by. And we feel in order to do that, we need to be near where we're at right now in the location and the size sign that we've got in the applications, which is larger than what we could see is allowed by code. So we're asking for those variations.
Okay. Well, let me start and ask if anyone on the commission has any questions that they would like to ask the applicant. Commissioner Snyder.
Yes, thank you, Chair Rose. Hi, so I did take some time to go down there and really take a good look at the site and drive along Butterfield Road. You guys have, that's a tough spot for a sign. I see what you're talking about with the overgrowth and vegetation with your neighbor to the east, and then with the new construction townhomes, and you've got the utility poles that also line Butterfield Road.
Right.
So I really tried to pay close attention to the sight lines of a driver. Do you happen to know, is there a landscaping plan for the townhomes going up? Because as of right now, I don't, are you aware of anything that's going up there that would further obstruct the sight line for any drivers traveling eastbound?
I'm not, is anybody aware of it?
Other than putting shrubs in along the fence line to give some privacy.
Yeah.
That doesn't go from the church to Butterfield. That won't go to Butterfield, you're right.
Yeah, no, we're not aware of any, anything. We know there's going to put some shrubs in there, but the exact location, I don't think we can speak with any certainty as to where that's going to be.
Okay, and then I have a few more questions. So
Okay.
Do you have, is this going to be a full color sign in the rendering that you provided, or the images, the supporting paperwork? You showed sort of a full, it looked like a graphic of some sort with a waterfall. So do you have, is there going to be full color, and will there be animation on this sign, or is it strictly you're thinking just text?
It is full color. We're not anticipating animation. We want to be able to get that message so the driver can see the message coming by at one time quickly. So we're not expecting to use any animation.
Okay, and then So the speed limit on that road is about 35 miles an hour. I think that's correct. So on the traveling eastbound, it goes down from 2 lanes to 1 on either side. And then traveling westbound, it's a single lane opening up to 2 just past your church. So, and traveling at 35 miles an hour, there are sort of standards from the ISA, that's the International Sign Association. In my background in industrial design, we work with a lot of signage. So we have to understand visibility and how quickly passersby can process information as they're traveling. And you've got about 3 to 4 seconds for any motorist to process the messaging that's going to be placed on your sign. So are you looking at, because you were talking about communicating some pretty complicated programs with healthcare and cooking classes and whatever. So how are you anticipating communicating messaging in a way that won't require extended attention of any motorists traveling down the road?
Well, you know, I don't know, Pastor, did you have?
We usually do just a catchy phrases like we did before. One sentence, maybe just 5 to 7 words, and that's it.
Yeah, it would be, I don't know if you could hear him, but it would be, as we do now on the sign, we have a phrase, some kind of a catchy phrase, which could be, you know, healthy cooking class Sunday afternoon. And that may be all that we would put on there, or a phone number maybe if they want to call for information. But we're not going to, because we agree with you, you got to be able to read that with one passing going by and be able to get the whole message, the entire message. So we can't fill it up with a lot of details. It's just, there's a program coming up on Sunday, or there's a financial planning program coming up, or, and we'll, you know, obviously we'll put our own services on there too, when we have our church services in session. But it'll be the time and as little as we can put on the sign. But it's a lot easier to adjust this sign. You know, the one that we have now in the winter, you know, there's some winters that you can't even get to the sign, you know, for months. So this will be nice that we'll be able to be relevant to what's going on all the time.
And are your surrounding neighbors aware of your plans for the electronic sign? I think you have a home owner to the east, and then obviously the new townhomes, you can't speak with them, but then the folks across the street from you on Butterfield, have you gotten any feedback from any of your neighbors?
Well, maybe I'll have Doug kind of come up and talk to that a little bit, because we did send out a letter to our neighbors. The address list we received from the city of Elmhurst, and we sent out to those neighbors, and Doug was kind of involved in that, so you can talk to it.
We did get a listing.
Doug, please, before you start, could you please say your name for the court reporter?
Oh, yes, Doug Hamill. Okay. Yes, we did send out letters to all our neighbors. And as far as we know, we had nothing, no feedback at all. We gave them our address, of course, and then the pastor's phone number. And nobody has responded.
And in that, there was an image of the sign, I believe, what I said.
There was an image of the sign as well, too, what our plans were.
Can I ask, was that image the same one that we received?
Yes.
Okay, and then I just have one more question, and perhaps this is for the city planner, Eileen. What are the regulations regarding animations on electronic signs?
Animation is not allowed.
Okay, so that is not allowed. All right. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Other commissioner who has a question, Commissioner Pittman.
Thank you. I had a question. It states in section 3B that the subject sign will replace the existing sign at a slightly smaller size.
Yes.
What's the size of the existing sign?
You've got it? Okay. Yeah.
I measured it today, 64.98 square feet.
On one side?
Correct.
And then that's from the ground?
It's not including the base.
Not including the
Just
pedestal.
sign itself.
All right.
I don't know if they could hear that.
Emily measured it today, and she had the dimensions here, 64.
64.98, one side.
Okay. And then is the existing sign 6 feet from the street or is it greater?
It's, if you look it's more than that from the street. It's, we've got a plat survey here someplace that we're gonna bring up, right?
Yeah.
Well, not a, but a survey that we had done a couple weeks ago.
And this is on
From the property line. It seems
Oh.
like it's farther than 6, and that's why.
Yeah, from the property line, the base of that sign right now is less than 2 feet from the property line. But from the edge of pavement, we're 28 feet away from the edge of pavement. Almost 29 feet from the edge of pavement. And there's a bit of maybe all of you have driven by there, but there's a little bit of a hill there, that we're up on top of the hill.
Okay, any other question, Commissioner Pittman?
Yeah, I guess, how did you come up with the 2 feet versus 3, 4, 5? Why do you feel 2 is necessary?
Well, it's about the existing location where we're at right now, and we don't want to be any closer to the property line, and we didn't want to get any further back, again, because of the sight lines. We went back further back, the drivers would be more distracted trying to look sideways to get to the sign, to see the sign. We wanted to stay right where we're at, and we didn't expect that we're going to be able to get to the property line, so we said, let's leave it right where it's at.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Burns, Commissioner McCoy, you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. So is the sign basically going to be in the same spot, just a different size?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Commissioner Snyder?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify. So the existing sign was 64.8 square feet? Is that what?
64.98.
64.98 square feet. On the 66 square feet. So the new sign's a little bit larger than the existing sign. Is that correct? The new sign square footage would be 66, or is this was this a typo? So it seems like there's conflicting information there.
I believe it's per side.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
And we're not including the pedestal in that dimension.
Okay. Okay. So the new sign is just marginally smaller than the existing sign. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
The new sign is smaller than the existing sign, but taller. Is that correct?
No. The existing sign is 9 feet tall.
And this sign is 70, it's 90 inches, so that's what, 7, 8,
7, 6.
7, 6, yeah.
7, 6 inches. Centimeters shorter than current.
18 inches shorter?
Shorter.
Yeah. Did you have the overall height when you went by there today?
For the existing?
Yeah.
Let's see.
I had 9'2" when I was out there.
Okay. Yes.
9 foot, yeah, I had
Yeah.
9'3", so it's 9'2".
Give or take.
Commissioner Garland? Commissioner Garland, do you have a question?
Yes, and maybe this is for city staff. the reason that there's a request by the applicant for the variation is because the sign is being taken down and a new sign is going up. If they wanted, is that correct?
That, and they're adding the electronic portion, which is why the conditional use permit is needed.
Right, sorry. That as well. So if conceivably, could they just refit, not that this would be ideal, but refit the existing sign with electronic messaging?
They would still need the conditional use permit to do that.
For the electronic piece, right?
Correct, yes.
Right. Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Just to clarify for everyone, the conditional use is for an electronic sign. Any electronic sign in town requires a conditional use permit. Correct, Eileen?
In, not in our commercial districts, but in
Right.
residential districts
Which
for
this
like
is.
churches and schools, right?
So the conditional use is to be able, Eileen, you're gonna have to mute. So the conditional use is just to get an electronic sign. But then there's an addition into that, which is variations based on size. So we have basically two issues to consider. One, the conditional use, and second are really the variation in our current code that are being asked for. Other questions that anyone has? Commissioner Hoffman.
Thanks, Chair Rose. Maybe just a point of clarification. This is piggybacking on Commissioner Garland's comment. So essentially the replacement sign is in the same area. It's marginally smaller, but it has an electronic messaging component to it. Is that
Correct.
accurate?
That is accurate.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Okay. Let me ask if there's anyone in the public comment room that wants to make a comment on this particular case. Mike, can you please confirm if there is anyone there?
There is no one present. Comment on this case.
Thank you very much. So let me go back to ask if commissioners wish to deliberate this case tonight, or if they would prefer to, they need more information, or they want to think about some aspects of it, and would prefer to wait until next week. So let me ask if there's anyone who has an objection to deliberating the case for any reason. Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to suggest we move into deliberation. We close the public hearing on this case. Commissioner, City Manager Franz, we need to take our little 2-minute break again because of the 2-minute lag with YouTube. So can you confirm that you have no voicemail or you have no other communication from the public about this case?
So I have not received any emails. It looks like the delay might be a little bit shorter than we thought, might not be quite 2 minutes. So we're just going to wait a minute and see if we get anything in the meantime.
Okay, we will wait 60 seconds. And then we will move into deliberation.
No voicemails.
Okay, it's been a minute and we haven't received any emails and there were no voicemails downstairs. So I'm comfortable with the commission closing the public hearing.
All right. We will now close the public hearing. Let me ask I'm going to ask commissioners for a motion first to approve that they need to be considered separately. Is this correct, Eileen? All right. So first, to consider the conditional use application, can we have a motion and a second? And then the second one after that, we will consider the variation. So again, conditional use is for the use of an electronic sign abutting a residential area, and that residential area clearly is, this church is in the middle of that. So can I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Commissioner Burns moves. Is there a second? Commissioner Callaway seconds. Commissioner Burns.
Okay, so the nub of the conditional use is the electronic sign portion of this overall sign.
Can I ask you to speak a little louder or closer to your microphone?
Sure. Okay, so the core of this conditional use is the electronic sign portion of the total sign. I have reviewed all the 7 standards for conditional use, and I'm convinced that the applicant meets those standards. I'd like to address this aspect of the electronic sign in a little bit more detail. The request is to go from the required 50% to about 71%. So that means, because there's about 33 square feet of sign area, excluding the podium on each side, 66 feet in total. That means there's about 24 square feet of electronic signage on each side. If the 24 feet was applied to the existing 64 square feet per side, it'd only be 37.5% of the existing sign area. So you can see where I'm going with this. The applicant is reducing the overall size of the sign, and it's not just minimally, it's fairly significant. It's going from 9 feet 2 inches high to about 7.5 feet high.
Chair Rose?
Commissioner Burns, you're going to have to speak a little louder. I'm sorry, who was that?
Chair
Yeah.
Rose, can you ask the applicant to mute? I think that'll help.
Yeah, could the applicant please mute? Emily, can you please mute the applicant? There we go. Okay, Commissioner Burns, you're on, but could you repeat some of that and a little louder, please?
Sure, okay.
Oh,
So,
that is better.
Yeah, I'm speaking at the same volume I was before. So the existing sign is 9 feet 2 inches high by my measurement. The new sign will be about 7.5 feet high. The existing sign has about 64 square feet per side. The new sign will have about 33 square feet per side. So it's substantially smaller. The impact will be greater because of the electronic nature of it. And the point I was making at first was that if you take the electronic square footage per side, which is going to be about 23, 24 square feet, if you compare it to the existing 64 square feet, it would only be 37.5% of the total sign area, which is below the 50% maximum. Now, what they're actually doing is putting a new sign up that's smaller. So it's creating this 71% coverage. But I think the spirit of it is they're really reducing the sign from what it was before. And in terms of what we want to see in signs, you know, we seem to be more in favor of monument signs, especially in the core district, and that reducing the size of their existing sign is a move in the direction that we've been going. And it helps the streetscape, you know. But by reducing it and changing it from the manually placed letters to the electronic, they're getting more efficient use of their reduced sign area. So I think all those circumstances support the application, and I'd be in favor of it.
Thank you. Commissioner Callaway.
This is why I like seconding Chairman Burns, because I don't have to do math. I think that we've had a number of cases involving signs along Butterfield Road, and obviously the same issue of abutting a residential property as well. I don't really have anything else to add other than I think given what they're proposing here that and some of the information that obviously Chairman Burns already, Commissioner Burns already spoke of, I think that they have satisfied the criteria.
For the conditional use.
For the conditional use.
Any other commissioner wish to make a Commissioner Snyder?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Rose. Yes, generally, going through the standards, the only thought I have, and it is when traveling westbound on Butterfield with an electronic full color messaging sign, and with the surrounding environment as it exists, with all of that full vegetation, with the neighbor next door to your east, that it would be sort of the sudden burst of light once you sort of travel past that point. And I drove that many times to see, what that visibility factor was, what the cone of visibility is. And I do think, there's some marginal concerns about attention grabbing of motorists, maybe going too far. It's really probably more of a concern in the evening hours. And I know that these electronic signs have to be turned off by 8 p.m. So really it would be in the winter time. And I think those are deciduous trees and vegetation there. So perhaps the leaves wouldn't be on. Really, that's the only sort of concern I had. But I don't think I think that there's enough there to say it's really not that big of a safety concern. So I would support Commissioner Burns and Callaway in approving the sign.
Thank you, Commissioner Snyder. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment in relation to that? Commissioner Pittman.
Yes, thank you, Chair Rose. I think that this would be a big improvement from the current sign that's there. And I think part of the reason that they almost need the digital component is because of that vegetation and that adjacent land. It's just such a hard sign to see when you're driving from that direction. And I think given the sign and the position are changing very slightly, if anything, getting better, I would also support this. I did have one quick question. This is for Eileen. And I could be remembering this incorrectly, but was Timothy Christian getting rid of their electronic sign? Did that come up in a previous?
They are removing the electronic portion and just doing a message. Not even a message. No.
That would be relevant. I guess that was why I asked the question.
I think it's just a choice on their end. But we did have another church about a year ago. The name of the church is escaping me, but it's the one just east of Timothy Christian that came through for a similar request to the church tonight. Messiah, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Commissioner McCoy?
I didn't hear you. I didn't, and now I do.
Okay. Did you have a comment?
No, I did not.
Oh, there you just wanted to tell me you couldn't hear. Sorry. Okay. All right, seeing none, I will ask Eileen to call the roll. The motion is to approve the conditional use request for an electronic sign.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Commissioner Callaway,
Yes.
Commissioner Garland,
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman,
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy,
Yes.
Commissioner Pittman,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Uditsky,
Yes.
Chair Rose.
Yes. The second issue, we have in front of us now is the variation application. And this is an application for variance for various sizes and setbacks, et cetera, which is detailed in the staff report. Can I have a motion to approve and a second for the variation application?
So moved.
Commissioner Burns, and a second. Commissioner Callaway, or was that Commissioner Garland? Okay. I think Commissioner Callaway said second first, so. All right, Commissioner Burns.
Thank you. So the standards here are first, that the plight of the owner is due to unique circumstances. And what the applicant supplied was to discuss the fact that the message board will be a good medium for advertising their community-focused health education programs. I actually think that the plight portion is better answered by what they supplied under number 3, or letter C, the third variation standard, where they mentioned the neighboring shrubs in new construction. Obviously, that's not something they can control since it's off their property. So that's creating a unique circumstance for this site. Variation will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. It's replacing an existing sign. It'll be a little smaller. It's not going to change the nature of the neighborhood or the essential character. And not yielding a reasonable return or providing reasonable enjoyment. Now, in this case, I think I would go back to their answer to A, kind of flip-flopping them, where they're trying to promote these very valuable programs they're putting on, and they wouldn't be able to do so as well or as effectively if they had to adhere strictly to the zoning ordinance. So I find in favor of their meeting the 3 standards, and I would support their application in that respect.
Thank you. Commissioner Callaway.
Yeah, I don't have anything further to offer other than the points that Commissioner Burns made.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask Commissioner Garland, since if he wanted to make any comments, since he did attempt to second it, but I'm seeing none, so.
So can you hear me?
Commissioner Garland, yes, now I can hear you.
Yes. All right. So my third motion. I have nothing to add, actually. I thought what Commissioner Burns put forward was very sensible and makes sense, and would approve it.
Yeah, I only have one thing to add, and that is to emphasize that the sign will not be animated. I'm disappointed that the applicant did not include a better rendering. I thought the rendering of the potential sign was really very poor. And that is of concern to me, because my original concern about this was the neighbors across the street, kind of in that area, but that's across the street, that's not so much. I mean, we've got the middle school, we got Bryan, middle school, we have a variety of things there. So, but the fact that a letter was sent to everyone, and no responses, that means a lot to me that nobody responded, because that whole strip along Butterfield Road, those residents are very quick to respond do a number of things. And the fact that no one did, and that leads to my disappointment about the fact that a really very poor rendering of the sign was sent along. So maybe they did or did not. So that's, I find that to be a lack in this case. So it's really difficult, but that does not mean that I wouldn't support it. So any other comments from commissioners? Eileen.
So I do just have one comment on the actual procedure. Each variation will have to be voted on separately. I understand that you kind of discussed them all as one, but there will have to be 4 separate votes on the 4 variations.
That's interesting because we just have one variance application. I've never, but yeah. Okay. I see this here. Does not include any conditions or amendments. Okay, so there are 4 that we will need. So Commissioner Garland, you'll get an opportunity to second one of these if you'd like. The first one is we need a motion, and I'm going to ask Commissioner Burns if he will accept this motion that for a variation from the maximum size for a ground sign of 50 square feet to 66 square feet of signage. And if the seconder of that motion, Commissioner Callaway, will accept that would be the motion.
Yes.
Commissioner Callaway?
Yes.
So, Eileen, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Commissioner Callaway,
Yes.
Commissioner Garland,
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman,
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy,
Yes.
Commissioner Pittman,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Uditsky,
Yes.
Yes.
Chair Rose.
Shall we dance? The second, I need a motion to approve a variation from the maximum from the maximum height of a ground sign of 5 feet to 7.5 feet, knowing that the current sign is 9 feet, but this is the variation for the request for the new sign. Can I have a motion and a second for that variation?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Commission. All right, who moved first?
Commissioner Snyder.
Commissioner Snyder moved and Commissioner Garland seconded that. Commissioner Snyder, we've discussed these. I think we don't need any more discussion. So we're going to go straight to the calling the roll.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Garland,
Yes.
Commissioner Callaway,
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman,
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy,
Yes.
Commissioner Pittman,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder, Commissioner Uditsky,
Yes.
Chair Rose.
Yes.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
sorry about that. I went out of order accidentally.
She almost let Commissioner Snyder vote for you twice. Take over your vote. I'd be cautious about that. All right, the next motion, Eileen, can you mute? Okay, the next motion is a variation from the setback for a ground sign of 6 feet to 2 feet. So we need a motion and a second to that variation. I'm going to offer Commissioner Garland. Would you like to move? Commissioner
move.
Garland moves. A second.
I'll second.
Commissioner Pittman. All right. Would anyone like to discuss this at all? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move to the vote.
Commissioner Garland,
Yes.
Commissioner Pittman,
Yes.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Commissioner Callaway,
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman,
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Uditsky,
Yes.
Chair Rose.
Yes. And the last variance, we need a motion, a variation from the maximum size for the electronic portion of 50% to 71%. Can we have a motion and a second?
Motion.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Callaway. All right, is there any discussion on this? Okay, we will move to the vote.
Commissioner Hoffman,
Yes.
Commissioner Callaway,
Yes.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Commissioner Garland,
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy,
Yes.
Commissioner Pittman,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Uditsky,
Yes.
Chair Rose.
No. So that passes. So this now will go to this will now go to the Development Planning and Zoning Committee. And that should be within the next couple weeks. Eileen Franz will let you all know that. We wish you good luck. I'm sure you'll have a lovely sign. So we wish you the best of luck in that.
All right, thank you. Thank
All right. Thank you all.
All right, good night.
Good night. Okay, our next order of business is McMaster Carr. This is a significant, we are looking at the conditional use permit and conditional use permit for a plan development plan, the PUD as we call it, the plan development from McMaster Carr. So this is a significant project that we have coming into our community. And again, while we usually would deliberate, again, we may or may not deliberate this case tonight. It just depends on if you think there's more information, et cetera. So, but we want to open the public hearing on this case. Commissioner Garland.
Chair Rose, thank you. In the spirit of full transparency to my fellow commissioners, as well as the city staff and the public that's attending tonight, I wanted to at least make you aware that I've reached out to and had discussions with Chair Rose, as well as with Eileen, who in turn had a conversation with the city attorney. But we have a very good friend that is one of the senior executives at McMaster Carr. And although I do not have any financial interest or fiduciary ties with McMaster Carr, I felt it was important that I shared, in the spirit of transparency, the friendship that I have with one of the executives at McMaster Carr. And after personally deliberating it and having conversations, as I mentioned, with Chair Rose and city staff and attorney, felt that I would still be able to participate and be objective in the process, but wanted to disclose that.
Commissioner Garland, I appreciate your transparency, and I will just want to confirm with you that you have no fiduciary relationship with the applicant.
I have no fiduciary relationship with the applicant.
Thank you. Okay. Eileen, you are going to be introducing this to us?
Yes, I am. I just want to make sure that Emily and the applicant are all settled in downstairs. I believe they were waiting outside. Yes, if you wouldn't mind giving us one moment, I will get everyone in here.
Beautiful night to wait outside. Gorgeous. So.
The applicants are wrapping up temperature checks and entering now. So we're unmuted now, just going over, no, you're fine. So this is the presentation on board docs, and I'm happy to jump in
And I can say page 2, and they're seeing, well, where do they see it?
So,
They see it on their
we'll
screens
share
at
it
home?
right here,
Okay.
exactly. And I'm happy to jump in once you get to that portion. But Eileen, I think we're ready for you to introduce the case.
Okay, thank you, Emily. Eileen, can you please introduce this case to us?
Yes, thank you. This is case 20P10. The application was filed May 19th, 2020. The request is a conditional use permit for a planned unit development with conditional use permit for building height. The applicant is Mark Beckel, who's the construction manager for McMaster Car and Supply Company. The legal notice was published May 28th, 2020. The sign was posted May 29th, 2020. And the mailing was done May 29th, 2020, which brings us to the public hearing this evening, June 16th, 2020. Just a point of clarification, in the I-1 district, which this property is zoned, any height relief requires a conditional use permit similar to our downtown properties. So it's not like our residential districts where this would be a variation. It is a conditional use permit. And additionally, a planned unit development was required due to the size of the property. So since both of them are a conditional use permit, this was noticed as a conditional use for a planned unit development and a conditional use for the height. But similar to what we've done with some of our other planned unit developments, the commission can vote on this as one request when it comes to deliberation.
Thank you, Eileen. I just want to emphasize that this it's kind of a word salad. It's a conditional use it's a conditional use permit and a conditional use permit for the PUD, for the planned development. So, but we will talk about it all together, and we can talk about them actually piece by piece. The conditional use is for the height, and the other conditional use is for the planned unit development, but there will be only one vote. So, and I say this to the applicant, we have a new procedure for planned units, so we are finding our way through the complexities of this particular one, and I want to actually thank Commissioner Uditsky, who did a fantastic job in moving us through this during our last meeting. So we'll give you the opportunity to present the case, and then what we will do is let's make sure everyone has been sworn in. Were you sworn in? Let me ask the applicant, have you been sworn in?
We have not been sworn in.
Okay, then I'm going to ask every one of your team who intends to speak to please raise your right hand, and I will ask the court reporter to swear you all in, and then I will ask Emily to confirm that you all have raised your hand and been sworn in. There you go. You are muted, Kiki.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that any testimony given in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much. Okay, give us a little idea. I know this is a big project, so give us a little idea of what you have in mind.
Sure. Thank you for having us. Just real quick introductions. I know Eileen introduced me, but my name is Mark Beckel. I'm a construction manager for the Elmhurst facility for McMaster-Carr. I'm here with Nick Anson, who's the vice president of our Elmhurst branch, as well as Amy Allman, who's a senior director who oversees our operations and also our construction projects. I also have Christine Rosenberg, who's an architect with Valario DeWalt Train. So they do most of our work on our site, as well as Scott Marcourt, who's a civil engineer with HR Green. So I thank you for having us. As Eileen knows, and certainly others on the call, we have been in City Hall multiple times talking through the different expansion and construction projects we've had. This is actually a part of a multi-year project. And as Mrs. Rose mentioned, this is a new PUD process. So we are here to describe this project as part of this plan. It was great to talk to our neighbors about this project on March 4th in a town hall meeting. Then we were with the Development Planning and Zoning Committee on March 9th. Obviously, for a variety of reasons, there's been a couple-month delay, but we are excited to be back here tonight to talk about the conditional use as well as the planned unit development. I thought it'd be helpful, and I think you all can see a slide deck. Emily, I need you here for a second to see the PDF down here. Oh, there it is.
So we're not technically, you want to share the screen?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. And let's see. Sorry.
No.
Okay. So we would need, I believe, Mike Sensen to give us the sharing permissions.
Yeah, correct. For it looks like the YouTube screen has the green dot right now.
Mike Kopp over in the public comment room. Can you connect with Mike Stenson and ask him to move, get that permission? I can't do it. Yes, hold on. I just did it. Yes.
Thank
Success.
you.
The applicant.
All
I can do
right.
it.
So here we are. All right. So now we're going to share screen. All right. Now it's just a regular. Okay.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you, Emily. All right, so I wanted to shift down here to slide 2. I was going to spend a few minutes just kind of introducing the McMaster-Carr site and also describe kind of the company of McMaster-Carr. I know many people in the audience might be new to who we are, so I wanted to kind of start with that. McMaster-Carr is an industrial supply distributor. We like to think of ourselves as a problem-solving company, and the way that we do that is that we help customers build whatever they want because we carry just about everything they need. And the size of our warehouse is kind of dictates that ability to offer that customer service and industry-leading performance that we certainly work towards as a company. We have been in Elmhurst since 1978. This is our company headquarters. We are very proud of the site that we have created over the years. And as many of you might know, we have had a variety of office and warehouse expansions to get us to the site that you're seeing here on page 2. And this multi-year strategic phasing process is just an additional expansion that we are excited to be here to talk about tonight. Jumping to page 3, and I think it's important to kind of walk through the multi-year process. We started a multi-year construction plan actually as late as 2018. So we've been working with the city, working with the engineering and building group. And last year we built a state-of-the-art data center that you can see there in the southern part of our site, as well as a one-story parking deck. Both of those projects were a part of a many-year strategy that we're working through right now. And there's 2 reasons we're doing that. One is we are growing our own operations. We are also working closely with the Illinois Tollway. As many of you might know, we began being impacted by the upcoming widening of County Line Road and I-294. County Line Road will be moving west, and we have already lost acreage to the Illinois Tollway. And in the future, we'll be losing a lot of parking spaces. So as me and our leadership team sat down, we came up with a many-year project, and certainly working through company plans and tollway plans is what's dictating our schedule that we're here to talk about tonight. Why we are here tonight is to describe kind of the last step of this multi-year project. We are in need of investing in state-of-the-art technology to meet our customer demands and offer the service that is required for our continued growth. We must expand in a way that accommodates these technological advancements that are in the marketplace. This advancement requires us to build a 466,000 square foot warehouse expansion. Portions of the warehouse, which is around 400,000 square feet, will be 66 feet above grade at the highest point. This height of the warehouse is critical in our ability to upgrade our site and modernize our operations for decades to come here in Elmhurst. Page 5 here is a rendering of kind of where we are as we submitted the preliminary application. As we apply for conditional use and planned unit development, I wanted to highlight a few key points that are set forth in the City of Elmhurst Comprehensive Plan. McMaster Carr is a proud company, and we are proud to be one of the largest employers in the City of Elmhurst. This development allows our company to continue to grow and remain in Elmhurst. We continue contributing to the strong employment base in our town. This expansion keeps us competitive and attracts the best and brightest in our field of work to the city. Many of us, including myself, live in Elmhurst and in surrounding areas. We believe our presence enhances the overall standard of living in our community. We value being good neighbors and a key part. We take pride in supporting local cultural and civic organizations throughout the city, and we certainly strengthen the city's industrial base and tax base. It was very helpful for me and our management team to hear from a few neighbors in early March. And I think before I pass off to our design team of Christine and Scott, I wanted to share some quick overviews of this expansion. I'm going to go back to page 4. Our expansion does not represent a change in the overall character of our site. Our expansion will be done in the same responsible, high caliber manner that we have always done. Our expansion is being done on our existing property. There are no new public roads or traffic devices being added. Residential streets are not impacted by our new expansion in operation, and we are being thoughtful in our consideration and planning to mitigate any impacts to our neighbors. The only lost green space is in the southwest corner of our site, and we'll offset this with a substantial investment in additional native prairie plantings and evergreen trees along a western berm. I just wanted to kind of wrap up my portion by saying thank you for having us tonight. We strongly believe that our facility and the technological upgrades will have many contributions to the city and also to our company. We look forward to a positive response during this application process. We're going to shift gears here as we present. Eileen or Emily, let me know if there's a different flow we're looking for here. If not, Christine, you want to swap seats? Thank you, everybody.
I just want to disinfect the screen real quick.
You want me to do it?
No, I can do it. Thank you.
That's
okay. Right. All right, thank you, Mark. As Mark said, I'm Christine Rosenberg. I'm an architect with Valeria DeWalt Train, and I am going to walk you through the site plan and the zoning of this project. I just had a little pop-up here. How do I get rid of this? Okay. Sometimes that happens. No problem.
Good color.
Okay. I think the disinfectant kind of,
Oh, I messed it up.
no, it's okay. I just will get it back here.
I moved the keyboard at work the other day doing it. But it did.
I'm wondering what I do now to disinfect it again.
Oh, and I'll loop.
Oh, here we go. Okay. There you go. And if you don't mind, I
Great.
could,
Thanks, Emily.
yes. Okay, and then. Yes.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you. Sorry about that. Now, if I use my mouse, is everybody able to see where my mouse is? Can I use that to point? Yes. Okay, great. So the expansion is on the western half of the McMaster site. I'll walk you through some elements of the site plan, of the floor plan, and then get into the zoning. Basically, the existing footprint for the building comes to this line right here, where it's the dashed line, and then it changes to color. There's a ring road that currently wraps the site, which we are expanding. So that ring road is coming along here, turning down this way, and then runs on the south of the building in this direction. We are adding in a parking lot for 195 employees to the north. So these are all employees that are working in this portion of the warehouse. We have an area for stormwater, which is this green area right here. And then we also have an area down here, which is for 39 trailers. These are, this is not a loading dock area at all. These are trailers which are currently housed on the site in the southwest corner. So right about in here, but at a higher level. So we are relocating those so that they are against the edge of the wall right here. We have a couple of generators on site and some salt storage as well. In addition, just to give you kind of an idea of what's around here as well, we've got a cemetery, which is a pet cemetery just to the west, which is in this area right here. There's a cemetery to the south. And then we've got unincorporated DuPage County to the north, and just a little bit, about a 33-foot of overlap in this corner right here, which is the park. So that's about, and that's residential. That's on residential right now. So that's about 33 feet right there. Currently, and we'll go through some pictures of this, along this edge between the cemetery and McMaster Carr's property, we have a berm that starts in the south and goes about halfway up to the north. On that berm, we've got some evergreen trees that have been planted. As part of this project, we are intending to keep those evergreen trees. We think they're about 30 feet tall right now. They were planted in 2005. We're planning on extending that berm to the north and planting some additional trees to create a separation between the cemetery and McMaster Carr. We also, because there's some changes in elevation that we'll get into, the line that I'm pointing at right here is a retaining wall. So as the ring road comes along here, it's actually down lower than the adjacent grade at the cemetery. And we've got some sections that we can go through to illustrate what that looks like. In terms of the zoning, we are in an I-1, which is a limited industrial district. For setbacks, side setbacks are required to be 20 feet. On the north side, we have 120 feet between the property line and what we're calling the outbuilding right here. So we're exceeding the setback on the north. On the southern portion of the property, it is also 20 feet, and we have 55 feet between the cemetery and the building. And then if we move over to the west, this is our rear of our site. So this is a 30-foot setback. We have 120 feet, which takes us to the edge of the electrical room. The FAR in this district is a maximum of 0.65. We are coming in at 0.59, looking at the site in total. And then in terms of height, which is the next diagram that I've got right here on the right, currently in the I-1 district, there's a maximum of 45 feet in height and 4 stories. There is with a conditional use approval that can go up to 75 feet and 6 stories. And I've highlighted that because we are here today for a conditional use. In terms of the heights of the building, the darkest blue area that I have in the center area right here is our highest portion of the area. This is where the equipment is going to be housed, and there are some requirements in terms of the height of that equipment and efficiencies. We've located that to the south side of the site and as far to the east as we can to keep it away from any populated areas. In terms of how height is calculated, the height from the floor to the top of the roof is 66 feet. In the zoning code defines the height as from the top of the roof to grade. Because we have some grade changes, we have a significant portion of the building which is partially buried underground. So I've got some target marks on here that indicate what the height is at those various points around the building. So you can see in the lower right-hand corner right here, where we meet up with the existing building, that is where we're going to have our highest point at 66 feet. As we move over to the western edge, because the grade is going to be coming up here, we go from 55 feet to 60 feet. If we go to the lighter blue, just to the north, this is the low roof. We've got this at 47 feet, top of structure to finished floor. And once we get into the elevations, we can look at what that is on their western edge as well. And then in terms of the building, we have a couple of what we call outbuildings. This one right here that's to the north, there is an electrical room in here, but this is primarily amenities for people that are working in this space. So we have bathrooms in here. We've got a cafe area. We've got break areas. We've got lockers, really an amenity for the workers that are going to be working in this area. And then we also have over to the left an electrical room right here. So those are the 2 outbuildings that are out and away from the main structure. So before I go on, any other questions here? Okay, I'll go to the next page. Page down. No? No?
Oh, maybe I can just slide it. Here we go. So these are our building elevations. Two north buildings elevation is this elevation right here, which is facing out to the north. So we really wanted to take advantage of the north light and bringing some natural light into the building. We wanted to take advantage of the views out to the north and to nature out to the north. So this elevation, we have some brick that matches our existing warehouses brought in. We've got glass on this elevation, and we also have some dark bronze metal panel as accents. If we go down to elevation number 3, which is our west elevation, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to point because to all of this because the screen showing everybody is partially in the way. So I'm hoping everybody can see this. In this elevation, it's primarily brick. So we've got brick up to, let's see, the 47-foot line. Again, this is brick that's going to match the existing warehouse. Above that, we've got precast concrete, which we are planning on doing an integral color or a stain and acid etching that. You can see in here, we've got over to the side some elevation markers that give the height from the finished floor. But in addition to that, we've added some dimensions that give the height as measured per zoning from the top of the structure to the grade. And we have another dashed line in here with a note that says top of berm, which is representing how much of the berm is covering the building, even though that's further out. And then elevation number 4 is our southern elevation. So this is facing the cemetery. So we've got the brick that's down below and then the precast band that is up above. I'll move on to the next slide. I'm just going to move this up here so I can see it. So this is a section through our site. It is starting over on the left at Adele Street, through the Pet Cemetery, and then this line right here is McMaster Carr's property line. This, if you can see the key plan that is down in the corner, it's a section that is through the southernmost portion of the site. So it's also through where we have the highest elevate or the highest building elevation. It's also where we have the highest berm. So this is the existing berm right here. We've got the existing evergreens that are on this berm. And then we are installing a retaining wall, which you can see right here, which drops the site down. That retaining wall, depending on where you're at, varies from 7 to 16 feet. Where we're cutting it right now in the southern portion of the site is where it is higher, so it's closer to that 16 feet. Then we have the ring road where the trucks are going around the site, which is right here. And then this is where we've got the trailer parking. We need to have this room behind the trailers for the trailers to be able to maneuver and back around this area. Behind you, you can see the electrical room right here. And then this is the warehouse at its highest point. And you can see how we have this partially buried into the ground with our height from 55 to 60 feet on this end right here. And then just to give you a perspective, what happens if you move just a little bit to the north. So this is cutting through the lower portion of the warehouse. Again, Adele Street Cemetery. We're continuing the berm right here and the retaining wall.
It will not be as high as it is in the southwestern portion of the site, but we're up to a minimum of 7 feet right here. And then you can see the electrical room right here, a break, and then a connection with the existing warehouse. Included landscape plans. There are more plans that are part of this packet, and when we submit for phase 2, we will have more details in terms of the landscape. This is where we've got the evergreens that are existing on the berm. To the north here is where we will be planting some new evergreen trees. And then throughout the site, McMaster right now has quite a bit of natural prairie landscape. And so I've got a picture of that here. We're planning on extending that to this portion of the expansion as well. And then to give you an idea of what those trees look like and what the berm looks like, this bottom photograph right here is taken from Adele Street, but it's actually just inside of the cemetery. So these are the trees that were planted in 2005 and have since matured and are on top of the berm. This is a rendering that is showing the view, again, very similar to what we were just looking at. So from Adele Street, but standing on the inside of the fence, and I'll show you some pictures of what Adele Street looks like in a second. To the right, we've got the evergreen trees that have matured, and then our plan to plant new evergreen trees to create an edge along here. You can see the brick of the warehouse and the stained precast up above. And a couple of photos to give you a view of what we're looking at. So these are photos that are taken from Adele Street. These are from Google. And in the summer, there's a fence that runs between Adele and the cemetery. There are some trees through here. I've been by in the summer. There are points that you can see through to the warehouse, but when the foliage is in, it's pretty difficult to do. So this one is along the north end of Adele Street. This one's at Gladys, dead ending into Adele and looking straight at McMaster's property. And then this one is at the southern end of Adele Street. And then I have a couple of photographs that were taken this winter. So the top two were taken this winter when there is not any foliage in. From Adele Street, looking across the cemetery. In this case, you can see the top of the McMaster car warehouse here. This one is a little bit further to the south where everything is blocked by the evergreens that were planted. And then a little further down, this is a panoramic view, again, just inside of the fence of the cemetery with the evergreens, the berm, the warehouse beyond, and then this is the area that we'll be reconfiguring and extending that berm and adding some new trees. And then I'm gonna end on this slide. I know Mark brought this up earlier, but just to give you a little perspective and some highlights. This is a view from the warehouse from the northwest corner looking back. So this is the north facade here where we've got the glazing with the view out to the north and bringing light into the building. We've got the outbuilding that's just in this area over here, which would be the entrance to the building. And then we've got over to the right, this piece right here is the electrical room. And then just above this is where you can actually see the building step up to the higher portion of the warehouse. So I will open it up to questions for Mark, myself, or we have our civil engineer as well.
let me ask you this. This is, in essence, the end of your presentation. Okay. What I'm going to do, normally we would open it up immediately for questions from the commission, but I know we have some folks in the public comment. With the agreement of commissioners, I'd like to go to the public and ask for the public testimony now, unless people have an objection to that. And then we will come back to the commission for question. Can I do that? Of course I can.
Can we turn off the applicant microphone? I'm having trouble hearing you, Chair Road.
I'm going to turn them off right now. Okay. So they are turned off, right? So now let me move, Mike, I'm going to go to the public comment room and ask for anyone who wishes to make a public comment about this project at this point. This is the first time we've done this, so I'm going to ask you to come forward. I'm going to ask you to come forward and give your name. You have 5 minutes for any public comment, and we look forward to what you have to say.
Oops. Want to sit down and push over there? Sit in the chair.
No,
Sure.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for coming. Could you please just give your name for the court reporter?
Linda Sherman,
Okay.
and I live on North Adele. We moved to North Adele 48 years ago. We decided on the 600 block of North Adele because there would be no neighbors across street. Instead, we would view a well-maintained elm lawn pet cemetery and enjoy the wildlife that resides there. Another benefit to living on North Adele was that the street dead ends into the east side of Crestview Park. Now I am concerned that the planned high-roofed warehouse will change my opinion about living on North Adele. McMaster Carr is planning to build on the west side of their complex. Whether the roof is high or not, when I look out my front windows, I see and will probably continue to see an imposing structure. It will be like looking at a brick wall. The new warehouse will have an access road, which I believe is called Ring Road, and 38 trailer spaces on the west side, the North Adele side. This is no small operation. 38 trailer spaces and an access road equates to a large volume of traffic and vehicular noise. Sitting out on my patio will probably no longer be feasible. We were told previously that McMaster Carr was planning to build a berm to address the view and the noise issues. As I understand it, when sound hits a berm, the sound is deflected upward. A berm should be several feet higher than the line of sight of the noise source and the received. My concern is what happens if the berm does not eliminate the view or the noise. What recourse do I have? The access road to the trailer spaces brings this warehouse site even closer to Elm Lawn Pet Cemetery. According to the site plan that I saw, Ring Road on the southeast side will be approximately 70 feet from Elm Lawn Pet Cemetery's property line. Basically, Elm Lawn Pet Cemetery is the narrow buffer between McMaster Carr and North Adele. 70 feet plus the Elm Lawn Pet Cemetery buffer strip puts McMaster Carr's site very close to North Adele. I can only imagine what this structure's size, traffic, and proximity will do to my property value. Would you want to live across from McMaster Carr's high-roof warehouse? I know I don't want to. I know the taxes generated by this project are important to the city, but my residents' property value is important to me. I'm against the whole McMaster Carr construction project. I believe this huge warehouse should be off-sited. If you are unable to stop McMaster Carr from proceeding with this construction or from reducing its area,
At least do not permit the high roof, and please make sure the appropriate size berm is built. North Adele will never be the same. That's it.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Sherman.
I think I got it now. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out. The next person who would like to speak? Is there another?
Else for public comment?
There is no one else for public comment. Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming out and observing, and thank you, Ms. Sherman, for coming out and speaking. Let me now return to the commission and ask if there are questions right now from commissioners. Commissioner Snyder. Commissioner Snyder.
Yes, thank you, Chair Rose. So I actually spent a great deal of time at the site on Adele Street, really kind of processing how this is going to impact the residents and the area in general. And so I have a few questions related to that. Has there, and residents have expressed concern about this, about McMaster Carr acquiring or potentially acquiring the pet cemetery. Has there been any conversation about that whatsoever, or was this just a concern that, you know, just sort of arose out of residents? I'm just wondering if there was any foundation for that concern.
There is no foundation for that concern. We are not pursuing purchasing the pet cemetery.
Okay. And the berm, can you just talk a little bit about so the residents along Adele Street, the new portion of the berm that's going to be extended, at what point in the project process will that berm go into place? So I guess my question, thinking about the residents, will they be, you know, witness and not have the protection of the berm and the trees while the construction is ongoing? Or is that something that they're going to have to look at while the warehouse is being constructed? And then does the berm go in afterwards? At what point in the process does that happen?
We were thinking about that from the neighbor's point of view as well. And we are looking at options with Pepper Construction, who is building the project for us, to actually go in and put the berm in first, as well as looking at the fencing that we will be putting in to provide as much privacy as early as we can in the process of construction.
Okay, great. And then I just want to circle back to the former use of the site with the Diamond Express, the Dixon building. My understanding is that there had been some truck traffic associated with that building and that use, but that is no longer there. So there's been an improvement in that in that capacity. And then the existing storage for the trailers, that's not going to be a new use. That's just going to shift a little further away from the property line, closer to the building. So is that correct? Can you talk about the impact of the former use and how that's going to change with this development?
Yes, what you said is correct. The Dixon building was demolished as part of our multi-year construction plan. There were trucks that entered and exited that building, as well as Diamond Expedited, which has now been moved off-site as part of that construction demolition. You are correct that the trailer yard, which currently houses those 39 trailers Christine mentioned, is actually shifting east or away from Adele Street as part of this expansion.
Okay, great. So just a few more questions going back to, because this is a conditional use application for a height variance. So in looking at McMaster Carr's operations with a 66-foot height building, I'm assuming that you are looking at, and you need that kind of height? Are you installing an automated storage and retrieval pallet racking system in there? Can you talk about why you need that 66-foot height, please?
Yes, we will be installing a order storage retrieval system. It is an automated system that will replace a current operation that's happening in our building. But it needs to be that tall for the productivity and operational needs that we require.
Okay, so you were looking at, when you were looking at this expansion, were you evaluating the expansion from in terms of the cubic capacity of the warehouse or solely square footage? Because if you were looking at cubic capacity to have a lower warehouse building, you'd have to have a larger footprint, which, you know, there's trade-offs there. So maybe you can just talk a little bit about why this was the most efficient configuration for McMaster-Carr.
Yes, we examined a variety of different sizes for the warehouse based on our projected growth over the next many decades. So this decision was based on our ability to remain in Elmhurst and stay in Elmhurst, projecting for multiple decades. There was a variety of decisions being made in that process, but we did review different warehouse sizing options and working with the storage retrieval company that we will be working with. It was a joint effort to get to this size.
Okay. So another question, and it was a concern that arose when I read through the residents of Adele Street, what some of their concerns were, that there might potentially be some kind of push for access to the McMaster-Carr facility through or from Adele Street. And so when I traveled to visit the site, I did see that there was a portion of the fence that had been removed, and there's a roadway that, you know, there is some access to the pet cemetery from Adele Street, and it looks like potentially that I don't know why that access road is there. Is that going to be closed up? Maybe the city planner can talk about that, but you know, like, I think there was a fire hydrant that was installed. So is that going to be closed off again? And is there going to be new plantings to sort of replace what had been lost when that fence came down?
The fence coming down is part of city water main work, so it is not related to McMaster-Carr work. My understanding is that the fence will be replaced as part of that work. We did hear our neighbors' concerns on March 4th related to incorporating some sort of connection between our site and Adele Street. That is not in our plans. I can state that we are not happy with the County Line Road widening and the future exit ramp either coming to our site. There's nothing good for McMaster-Carr that's coming of that. So certainly we don't want access from that road to Adele Street as well. So that is not a concern that our neighbors need to have.
Okay, great. And just let me go through my notes one more time. I think that's all I have for you for now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, I'm very familiar with that area up there. That's an interesting concern, and I saw that as well, that residents have. I just cannot imagine why, how, if McMaster-Carr would ever want to use that little teeny street onto another teeny street, onto another teeny street. I'm just not sure why they would ever do that, but I absolutely understand the concern. It's a fear that residents have, understandable. So, other commissioners, questions, comments that you might have? Commissioner Burns.
Okay, just a few questions. One comment, though, to follow up on Chair Rose's statement about using Adele Street to serve McMaster-Carr. I'm a commercial appraiser, appraised a lot of distribution warehouses, and it would just be a very remote possibility, probably no possibility at all, of using Adele Street for big rig semi-trailers and that sort of thing. It just wouldn't work. So now I'll go to my questions. I believe in addition to the Dixon building, at one point, maybe 15 years ago, there was another building south of the Dixon building. can recall that?
That is correct, yes.
So there were actually two buildings. So if you compare where those two buildings were and where the west elevation of each of those buildings were, how does that compare to where the west elevation of the new addition will be?
We have those answers. Let me, just give me 1 second here.
Do you want me to pull up the,
Yeah.
I was just gonna pull up the,
Yeah.
if we've got the presentation, we can take a look at what we've got in here.
It's helpful, we can look at some board docs here.
Okay. I do have something else on a zip drive that we can pull up, but I think that we can do it with the information we have. How do I pull up the presentation here?
Just so you can see it or to share?
To share.
Okay.
I'll get this box out of the way. Oh, wait, I actually have it right here too, if people can see it.
That's in your 3-page appendix, right?
Yeah. Okay, so here you can see the existing configuration of the warehouse, and Mark talked through some of the work that we've done within the past year or two. The Dixon building is shown dashed right here, and the other building that you are referring to, we're currently using the pad of that building as the existing trailer parking, so that is right here. We did an overlay, and basically the new expansion, the edge comes right out to about where I've got my cursor in here, with the electrical room coming out just a little bit further. It's like, it's right about in here.
Okay, so the new west elevation will be east of the former west elevation of those two buildings?
Yes, it's basically right on it here. The Dixon building had kind of a little bump out to the north right here. But the main facade right here, it's pretty close to matching up.
Okay. And I have another question that touches on a topic that is in your materials, but wasn't really discussed explicitly. This has to do with the stormwater accommodation. So it looks like the stormwater accommodation will be accomplished.
If you don't mind hanging on for 1 second, we're going to have our civil engineer
Okay.
come up to the computer.
Good evening. Scott Marquardt with HR Green. I'll be happy to address the stormwater question. If you could repeat your question.
Sure. Thanks, Scott. So in going through your presentation materials, it looks like let's see, based on a 1 1/4 inch rainfall event, that you'd need 19,851 cubic feet of best construction management practice storage volume, or PCBMP storage volume. And the as-built is 13,717 cubic feet. So that the new construction will be, this aspect will be accommodated through a combination of new storage volume, but not enough storage volume to completely make up the gap. So there'll also be a fee paid in lieu of constructing that storage volume. And the fee in lieu is it's over $200,000. So to get to the punchline, what is the practical consequence of this shortfall in as-built storage volume And what would the fee in lieu provide in terms of stormwater control for this site, or how does it mitigate that gap?
Okay, the best management practices for stormwater quality, the post-construction practices, are accommodated in several sites that are previously already constructed along the parking deck, proposed to be constructed up in this northwest corner. And there's also a future area to be proposed east of the existing office building. The site constraints do not leave, they leave very little green space available for any additional on-site best management practices due to the slopes of the site, topography. So the additional would be accommodated through payment of a fee in lieu of. That is paid to the city of Elmhurst in accordance with the requirements of the DuPage County Stormwater Ordinance. And then those fees are utilized by the city of Elmhurst to provide off-site best management water quality practices that they are currently looking at locations where that could be accommodated. But the combination of on-site PCBMPs and fee in lieu do provide the full requirement of the county ordinance.
And in connection with that, I noted that there was a narrative about a box culvert that goes under County Line Road and then continues under 294. Where does it go east of 294?
94, it goes into existing creek system. This project does not create off-site impacts to that box culvert beyond the Arlington Reservoir, which is located down here east of the parking deck and south of the office building. Our on-site stormwater detention is accommodated underneath the parking deck, and that has already been constructed. The box culvert under County Line Road and 294, that's going to be improved and expanded by the tollway as part of their projects.
And then the last question comes off what you just said. When the tollway takes property, I assume there's going to be some adjustments to County Line Road and to the McMaster car property. Will that have any impact on the existing or proposed storage volume areas?
You are correct. The tollway taking property will move County Line Road into this northern part of the eastern parking lot. The tollway accommodates their stormwater as part of their project, and McMaster as part of our on-site projects accommodating everything remaining on the existing McMaster site.
The materials that were submitted take into account the tollway actions.
With the tollway as to the limit of their improvements and what is theirs and what is remaining on McMaster. So yes, it has been coordinated with the tollway.
Okay. All right. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Are there other questions from commissioners at this point? Commissioner Snyder.
Yes, thank you, Chair Rose. Just one last question. In addressing the noise concerns that some of the residents had expressed, I noticed on the plans that there is a generator that is proposed to be located on the westernmost portion of the property. So is this a generator that's going to be running frequently, infrequently? What's the decibel level of the generator? I'm just wondering if that's going to be something that they are going to be hearing on Adele Street.
So it's once a month.
it's tested?
So we test the generator once per month, only put in use when needed. Does that answer your question?
I don't have the decibel level, but
We don't have the decibel level, but we could certainly report back on that.
Okay, well, I think that addresses my primary concern. Just when I hear neighbors' generators going off here, it's usually twice a week that they are testing, charging, whatever they do. But you were saying in this case, the generator that you are installing is going to be tested and turned on once a month. And how long will it run? Will it run a couple of hours? Will it run, a few minutes? I don't know typically how long they run.
30 minutes. 30 minutes.
30 minutes for.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Any other commissioner? Are there, I'm going to ask, are there any other questions, comments from any other commissioner? Okay. Seeing none.
Chair Rose.
I can't. Commissioner Callaway.
Yeah, I just have a couple questions.
Right.
And forgive me if I missed this, but what was the height of the former Dixon building? Do we know?
25.
The former Dixon building was around 25 feet.
But it was also higher because the grade is higher.
So that's, yeah, the grade would play a role in the height for the neighbors, but the building itself was 25 feet.
Okay, so it might have appeared, am I correct? It might have appeared higher because the land there is a little bit higher elevation. Okay. And the other question I had was, how many employees do you do you think will be working in that new section of the building?
Around 200.
Okay, so the new, I think you said there were 194 parking spaces that look like it's just to the north of the building. They will be occupying those parking spaces?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Other commissioners, other questions from any other commissioner at this point? Who? Commissioner Uditsky and Commissioner Pittman. I'm seeing them finally. Commissioner Uditsky.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. So Commissioner Callaway kind of stole my thunder a little bit, but in terms of asking about the parking. So what are we doing in terms of existing to new parking? I mean, are we adding, taking away? And I apologize if you addressed that already. I know there's a lot to unpack here. But what are we going from existing to new after full construction?
Do you want to talk through the?
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Uditsky, for the question here. It's important to kind of talk about the multi-year plan here. So we built an 870 parking space south parking deck last year because we knew parking on the western part of our site, which I can pull up today real quick. And sorry, this is going to be a long-winded answer because there's a lot of variables here. So we are losing the parking that is located on our western site. We are also losing 100 parking spaces when County Line Road is widened into our northeast parking lot. Looking at our employee growth projections, we needed these 870 parking spaces in the south of our site. And then we'll be adding these 195 parking spaces as well. So in the end, we will have 1,365 parking spaces. How that compares today, there's a lot of pluses and minuses, but certainly it's a few hundred more than what we have today. And all of those will be up near where these new 200 people are, new people, the new area of our warehouse where 200 people will work.
So what's the total number of employees you project in the near future once the expansion is constructed?
total employees on our site.
Yeah, what would the total number of employees be after construction? Guesstimate.
Yep. 1 second, please.
Okay.
While the applicant is looking up those numbers, let me just poll the commission. As you know, it's now 10 o'clock. So we would need a motion. I'm going to suggest we have a motion to go 30 minutes. We'll see if we use that or not. And then we would have to get permission to continue another 30. So I don't know, do we need a motion or just we need a motion and a second to go an additional 30 minutes tonight.
So moved.
Kevin Burns.
Second.
Commissioner Snyder. We'll have to take a roll call. Eileen?
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Calloway,
Yes.
Commissioner Garland,
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman,
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy,
Yes.
Commissioner Pittman,
Yes.
Commissioner Uditsky,
Yes.
Chair Rose.
Yes. Continue on. Please continue on with the applicant.
Okay. So again, I'm going to give a little bit of a longer-winded answer here because there's a little bit more to it. We have around 1,500 employees that are on our site today. When this expansion is complete, and the world's kind of spinned a little bit differently the last 2 months, so I'm hoping these growth projections stay, but we'll have a little bit more than 1,500 employees. We're okay with the 1,365 parking spaces because a handful of employees work from home out of that 1,500. A handful of employees are obviously not at work each day due to vacation absence. We also have hundreds of people that use a shuttle system we provide from the Elmhurst Train Depot and the Blue Line stop in Rosemont. So I have spent many hours digging into this, and I know Eileen's been involved as well to ensure we have enough parking for our square footage. But we feel confident that the 1,365 will not only handle future growth, but also just kind of changes in the employees we have on site that need a parking space.
You run multiple shifts as well?
Correct.
So generally, is the facility running 24 hours a day?
There are people, yes, 24 hours a day. Very few people work overnight, but our operations are generally 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. when we have inbound receipts coming in the early morning, outbound shipments going out at the end of the day.
Got it. And going back to the sound issue for a minute, it seems to be a big issue for the residents, but other than the generator that's on that western side of the building, I mean, is most of the sound is going to come from loading and unloading, I presume, which is going to remain in its current location on the north side?
That is correct. We have the majority of our traffic for trucks is on the north side. There are trailers that will use the ring road to come around our site to access 12 dock doors that are located here to pick up shipments and leave for the day. There's about, at most, about 25 to 30 trailers are going in and out of these southern docks, but hundreds of trailers are doing the work on these existing loading docks on the north side of our site.
Are they currently doing that with the existing configuration?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Pittman and then Commissioner Garland.
think the sound as well. Just trying to ascertain whether really is going to be a big increase. I know it's been noted as a concern, but as I'm looking at the previous use of the Dixon building, which could you, I guess, talk a little, my question is, could you talk a little bit about what was going on in that building? So I could figure out what sort of traffic and noise was being generated there. And then you've got the existing trailer parking, which is basically in the same area, just being elongated. Then you've got the ring road that's now moved closer to the border. It seems like the noise might not be as drastic of an increase, even though the footprint of the building is clearly moving closer. But the noise, I don't know, I'm looking at this. I guess I'd like you to speak to the previous use and what you foresee as in the future in terms of the noise.
Sure. Let me pull up just a point here. So the Dixon building served as a smaller operation for shipments that required more special handling, additional handling. Think shipments that can't go on airplanes, for example. So it was a smaller operation. However, 5 to 10 trailers would come in each day to either drop off items that were only stored in that facility or be able to leave that facility. Internal improvements with our warehouse has allowed for those items to be stored across our 5 warehouses. So there wasn't a need for a separate shipping process. So that building was demolished in March of 2019. We also work with a company, somebody mentioned it earlier, Diamond Expedited, which is a third-party company that we have a contract with to deliver same-day delivery within a 50-mile radius. I don't know the exact volumes of cars. These are individual contractors bringing their own vehicles to that Dixon building, but I would say hundreds per day of vehicles would access that Dixon building site as well. And that activity has been moved off-site as well to County Line Road and Grand Avenue. They've rented a space over there. The existing trailer parking area is the same location that we said 39 trailers would be parked on the western wall of our future warehouse. Those same 39 trailers are configured differently, but are parked in that existing trailer yard today. So that would be the old use. And then as I mentioned to Mr. Uditsky, the future use would be loading and trucks idling would be in this existing loading dock area on the north and in the south. These will be simply trailers dropped that are empty on this western wall.
Access the parking deck at all? Or do you anticipate them using that ring road, or just the semis going to hit the 12 bays in the back?
I missed the start of your question. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
Sure. Do you anticipate your employees using that ring road to access the parking structure in the back, or just the semis that are accessing those 12 bays in the rear?
Just the trailers that are using the 12 bays in the rear. We purposely separate vehicle and employee traffic from truck traffic as best we can.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Garland.
Thanks, Chair Rose. Just a couple of questions. And rightfully so, there was a lot of feedback from residents, but appreciate the work that you did on the town hall. Was there any feedback from cemetery owners or the sportsman club that was noteworthy?
I have not heard from either of them, and I don't believe Eileen has as well.
Right.
We work pretty closely with Scott Truce, the owner of the cemetery, and we've done work for them to help with some drainage work. And I have not heard anything from Scott and the Maywood Sportsman Club. We've worked together to understand tollway and other projects, but we have not heard anything related to the mailings or why we're here tonight.
Oh, thank you for that. And also appreciate the work that you're doing on the berm and your willingness to flex the schedule on that on behalf of the residents. Was there consideration given to raising the berm up any farther?
Consideration, I might rely on someone who understands berms a little bit better than I, so I'll call to the bullpen for Scott here.
Thank you. The berm height was maximized to the extent possible, given the constraints of fitting all the space necessary for the building expansion, trailer parking, ring road, and it, as has been mentioned, the ring road is lowered. So in addition to the berm height from existing cemetery grade up to the top of the berm, that then goes down to the retaining wall along the ring road, and then the pavement on the ring road is depressed below that. So given the site constraints, we've maximized the berm height to the extent and limits
Okay.
that can be.
Thank you. And I would ask that the commissioners bear with me on this, but I have to go back to the stormwater discussion because it was pretty Greek to me. And I know that Commissioner Burns speaks fluent Greek in that regard, but I need a little bit of help to understand that, notwithstanding the fees that are being paid and what they may or may not be used for, I guess, but are we meeting the requirements, and is there an issue with the stormwater, the required stormwater elements within this proposal?
Okay. I'd like to, if I could, separate the question into two issues for clarity, make sure I understand it correctly. One is stormwater detention, and the other is water quality improvements for post-construction best management practices.
Okay, right.
Okay. In regards to stormwater detention, the stormwater detention necessary for all of the site improvements, parking deck, data center, ring road, and warehouse expansion are accommodated in a underground chamber that was built underneath the parking deck in 2019. All the stormwater is routed either into that chamber for any volume that exceeded existing runoff. There's also a existing storm sewer system that runs around the north and east side of the site that takes majority of off-site stormwater from the gun club to the north and other areas. But the stormwater chamber underneath the parking deck provides the full stormwater detention requirement for this site.
Right, I see that. Okay. So,
okay.
And the other element?
That is for water quality improvements. That is the fee in lieu of. That is met through a combination of on-site post-construction management practices and off-site future improvements that the fee in lieu of can be utilized for. So the combination of the two meet the full requirement of the PCBMPs. I can go over where they are constructed on site for a refresher if desired.
No, okay. I think I'm getting there, but I appreciate you taking the time. And so,
you're welcome.
Are there any other questions from commissioners that we want to cover tonight? Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to suggest we are not going to be deliberating this case.
Commissioner Snyder.
Chair Rose, I did have a few more questions.
Okay, do you, right, the hand raising function, do you see what that is? But whatever. I hear your voice. That's good enough. All right.
All right, thank you. Just one last question. will there be any new lighting that's installed on the, or security lighting that's installed on the west elevation that might impact the residents of Adele Street, or any new illuminated signage that might be visible to the residents? Some of the security lighting can be really quite bright, and if it's on all night, I just want to understand if there will be lighting that might spill over onto the Adele Street residents.
Lighting that is along the ring road to light the ring road. And we will have some lighting along the trailer parking. We do have a lighting consultant on board and have been talking to them extensively about how we mitigate any impact on the neighbors. There's also a requirement with the city that you cannot have any light bleed off of your property line. So we have to make sure that there's no bleed into the cemetery itself. And then also thinking about any lights that we have on the building, making sure that there's no lights that are shining out towards the neighbors, so that those are directed down. And certainly as we move to the next phase, if you would like to see photometrics, that's something that we can provide.
Okay, thank you.
I apologize to commissioners if I don't see you, because it's not got to be able to see the hand raising function, but I cannot do that as well while the applicant has control of the share screen. So I apologize if I miss you at some point. So other commissioners who have a question or a comment, a question for the applicant at all? Hoffman. Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman.
Thank you, Chair Rose. Just a couple of quick questions. I thought I heard mentioned during the landscape plan something about a fence, but I don't see anything indicated on the landscape plan. So just wanted the applicant to talk a little bit about that.
The fence that Christine was mentioning was related to the construction fencing that we will have during the construction process. The final landscaping design would not, there will not be a fence in this design.
Okay, thank you. One other quick question. In the material submitted, the applicant mentions truck traffic is not anticipated to significantly increase. It's a fairly large addition, 460,000+ square feet. I guess I'd like to know what your definition of not significantly is.
Sure. The majority of our business is in very small packages. Think Jiffy bags, 9-inch boxes. The way that we ship to ensure same day and next day delivery is many of our trailers are not leaving 100% full. So we will just continue to fill those trailers. We do not believe there will be a substantial increase due to the typical volume of each individual package. We can handle additional volume in orders.
Okay. Did you have a further question, Commissioner Hoffman? Or you?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Chair Rose.
Okay. Anyone else have an additional question or comment before we go? Okay. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay. It is clear, let me be clear, we are not going to be deliberating this evening. What this means is that we will be meeting next week, and it will be our plan to deliberate at that meeting. I also want to, we'll ask the applicant to return at that point, and we will deliberate. And if there's any questions, let me just say that commissioners have, or they, after they're thinking about what we talked about tonight, and they really want something additional, please contact Eileen, and we can ask the applicant. Can we not do that? I do not want to close the hearing then. So we're not going to close the public hearing at this point, so that if there isn't additional information that you want, as long as we can leave this open for that amount of time, I think that would be a great idea. So we will do that. So we'd ask you to return next week at 7 o'clock. I want to apologize to Elmhurst College. We will be postponing the public hearing on that case until next week as well. We really got backed up with several things. We got backed up with the pandemic and what needed to occur there. We got backed up by a cancellation of our meeting 2 weeks ago because of our concern really around public displays of their thinking, et cetera, and where we needed to go with this. So we are backed up. So we will then, it will be our intention to have a subsequent meeting next Tuesday. My understanding that we've heard from just about everybody, and we should have a quorum on next Tuesday evening. So we'll ask the applicant to return then, and we will ask folks from Elmhurst College to come back, and we will definitely hold the public hearing on that case next week. So I will maneuver as I'm not closing the public hearing at this point. We are tabling, continuing it. We will leave it open and it will continue. So if anyone in the public wants to make comment, they can go ahead and do that, and we will be able to consider that. And there may have been, Eileen had mentioned to us, there may have been folks who wanted to submit written testimony and did not get it in by 5 o'clock tonight. They certainly have a little more time to get in written testimony about this before we meet again next week. So thank you. We will then close this section of our meeting. And as I indicated before, case number 20P11 and case number 20P08 will be continued until next week. So are there any additional comments commissioners wish to make before we have a motion to adjourn? No? Okay. I want to thank, again, our applicants. I want to thank our commissioners, and I want to thank people in the public for really your skill growth in dealing with electronic meetings. You know, the second time you do it, you think, oh, we should be so much better than the first time we did it. We're learning all the time. There's new wrinkles to this, but I really absolutely thank all the commissioners for their patience, and I thank the applicant and the public for your patience as we move through a different way to do business. So, that being said, Eileen, is there any other ground you want to cover tonight?
No, I don't have anything else other than the motion to adjourn. We'll need to do a roll call vote.
All right. Can I have a motion and a second to adjourn? And then we will do a roll call vote after that. Commissioner Callaway makes the motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Commissioner Pittman. All right, thank you. Eileen, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Callaway.
Yes.
Commissioner Pittman.
Yes.
Commissioner Burns.
Yes.
Commissioner Garland.
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy.
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder.
Yes.
Commissioner Uditsky.
You betcha.
Chair Rose.
Yes. Again, thank you to all of you for your patience and for staying the extra 30 minutes tonight. I think that was really useful to finish our questions at this point, and we will move forward. Pardon? June 23rd, next week, Tuesday, June 23rd at 7 p.m. And we will do it in the exact same format next week. So thank you all. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.